Hi guys, in this episode we are going to be talking about what Tan Sri Muhyiddin, the PN chief basically talked about recently about his racial theory. Now, Tan Sri Muhyiddin recently came up with yet another complex and bewildering racial theory. For context, when he was asked if he's still a Malay first at an Indian function last month in May Oh no, last month as in May, not in June Muhyiddin would brush aside the question by saying that he cares for Indians, Chinese, and Malays irrespectively. This is what he said: "I'm a Malaysian Malay, but my thinking has never been to see myself as just a Malay. I have to take into account the Chinese, the Indians, and others because I'm a leader of Malaysia. I once said I'm a Malay first. That's no longer important. I'm a Malay who cares for all Malaysians." End of quote. He said this at a program organized by the MIPP, Malaysian Indian People's Party, which is also a component of Perikatan Nasional, which Muhyiddin had. He said that on May 5th, last month. Muhyiddin was asked the question in the first place because a decade and a half ago, he famously or infamously exclaimed that he was Malay first when asked whether he's a Malaysian first or a Malay first. This week, Muhyiddin is again addressing the question whether he's a Malay first in the most ridiculous fashion by now saying that he's neither a Malay first nor a Malaysian first, nor is he a Malaysian second or a Malay second. This is what he said, quote: "Previously, my initial statement was Malay first, but I didn't say Malaysia second. Recently, at an event, I explained. So what does that mean? It's not that I have changed my stance. You were born as a Malay, aren't you? This is what he said, You are born as a Malay, aren't you Malay first? That's not the main issue. The real issue is what we do as the leaders of Malaysia." He said at a program called Rama Yang Sinde podcast, podcast, with Bersatu Information Chief Tun Faizal Ismail Aziz and Bersatu Supreme Council member Datuk Afif Bahardin. So anyway, so what is Muhyiddin saying now, you ask? Is he reversing the order and saying that he's a Malaysian first and a Malay second? No. That's not what he's saying. Is he saying sorry, he made a mistake and retracting everything that he said? No, that's not what he's doing either. Is he saying anything at all? No, he's not saying anything at all. So basically, Muhyiddin is just using a lot of words for around 15 years to say that he is saying nothing at all. So why, you might ask, is Muhyiddin subjecting himself and us to this worthless and useless task? Well, to this, I can only think of one answer. When you have nothing to say, but you desperately need to say it, even if you use all the words in the dictionary, it will not suffice. I will go on a limb and suggest that all that Muhyiddin actually wants to say is that he hopes that everybody will just vote for him, his party, so that he can remain as the president of PN and maybe even become the next prime minister. Because he can't bring himself to just say that out directly, plainly. He's saying that in a roundabout fashion, that it's not Malay first not Malay second not Malaysian first not Malaysian second in the hopes that we will somehow get the message and vote for him, even if he's not saying anything coherently. Now, why does Muhyiddin even think that he has to provide an answer to this question in such complicated and bewildering fashion in order to win election and get votes in the first place? Well, that to me that is because after subjecting an entire generation to Mahathiriism this is what you get. Malaysians, especially the Mahathir boys the Mahathir boys generation, to me includes the likes of Muhyiddin, Anwar and Najib, likely have inherited the same identity crisis that plagues Mahathir. This has caused them to be obsessively and compulsively complicate such topics as race, although race is actually quite simple and a straightforward topic. Mahathir, if you notice, was the first Malaysian to give an inordinately complex answer to a simple question about what his race is. From "I am a constitutional Malay," don't know what that means, to Do I only have a spoonful of Indian blood? Do my mother and father are pure Malays? Mahathir has been very erratic and disturbed. Mahathir has given very erratic and disturbed account of his race. I have never heard anybody in this world say that they are a constitutional Malay or a constitutional Indian or a constitutional Chinese. Other than Mahathir is the only person that I've heard saying that. I've also never heard of anyone who says that their mother and father are pure Malays, while at the same time saying that they have a spoonful of Indian blood either. Where did the spoonful of Indian blood come from then? I am of a mixed race too, but when you ask me about my race, I will just say Indian and be done with it. Simple, yeah. Indian, finish. I'm not confused about who I am. I'm not going to give a long-winded and self-absorbed answer about how I am constitutionally a Malaysian, although I have a spoonful of Chinese blood. But despite that, both my parents are pure Indians. So to answer a question about my race, it's only if you ask me further about why I don't look Indian, although I am an Indian. Then, although I say that I'm Indian, I'll probably give you a longer answer about how, though I have some Chinese blood in me, I am a Tamil because my father's mother is Tamil and he took after her. When I tell you this, by the way, I'm telling it to you just to indulge your curiosity. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. After you hear me, if you tell me like, hey, but Nehru, but if your father's side is from Kerala, that makes you a Malayali, not a Tamil. So next time somebody will ask you what's your race, you should say Malayali, not Indian. I will just say, dude, why do you care so much about who I am? What is it to you who I am? Before Mahathir imposed his identity crisis on Malaysians, I'm sure that my answer is probably the answer how most Malaysians would have treated the question of their racial heritage. If you were asked about your race in the past, you probably would just give a single answer, as in you're a Malay, or you're a Chinese, or you're an Iban, or an Indian, and just be done with it. That's it. Just give one word, complete, finish. You wouldn't talk in a complicated manner and say you're an Indian first, or a Malaysian first, or you're constitutional Chinese first, or you have a spoonful of Iban blood, or you're not a Chinese second, or a Malay second. It won't be so complicated. It'll just be simple and straightforward, yeah, guys. You would have answered the question about your race in such a simple and straightforward fashion, because before Mahathirism, race was just an experience. It was never an image. If I tell you I'm an Indian, it's because I experience myself as being Indian. Being Indian is not my image. It's not something that I'm trying to craft to try to convince you about who I am. When I tell you that I'm Indian, all that I expect you to do is understand why the radio in my car is preset at THR Raga, and why I might need to take a day off to watch a Rajinikanth movie on the first day, first show at 9 o'clock in the morning. Nobody does this. I think only Tamil people do this. Other than to explain this sort of differences that you might have observed in me. In reality, I really don't expect it to mean anything at all to you otherwise. This was the way that Malaysians used to treat their race, but since Mahathir burst into the scene, the subject of race has mutated from something that was simple and straightforward to explain some differences that we might see amongst the people in different races, into something like psychologically disturbed, hyper complicated, mind-bendingly bewildering that no one knows how to deal with anymore, but causes an immense amount of toxicity, complication and negativity to engulf our society whenever the subject is race. If this was Tunku's time and you asked him whether he was a Malaysian first or a Malay first, he probably will just say that it is a stupid question. I think it's a stupid question. It's like asking him whether he's a male first or a son of Kedah first, or whether he loves his nation more, or whether he loves a bowl of curry laksa more. It is a ridiculous question because you are making everything meaningless and complicated by conflating unrelated topics together, likely because there is something that is psychologically disturbing you, rather than because it is actually a question that naturally arises in reality. By Mahathir and the Mahathir's boys' time, however, this psychologically disturbed question has taken center stage and defined such an alarming range of subjects in the country, to the point that the entire nations seem to be afflicted with a lot of stress, agitation, and anxiety whenever the subject is raised. The latest example of a Malaysian who has become burdened by this topic is certainly Muhyiddin, guys. He could rival Hamlet with this to be or not to be the soliloquy about whether it's a Malaysian first or a Malay first. Anyway, I will just end this episode by saying that if we are truly interested to carry reformasi forward, perhaps one of the first things we should do is address this psychologically disturbed way that we approach the subject of race, by going back to the simple and straightforward concept of race as it was understood and practiced in the old days during Tunku's time. Perhaps when you see race as a part of an individual's experience, it is meaningful. It explains a lot of things about yourself and also about everybody around you. If we keep making it an image though, and treat it as if it's something that we have to manufacture or craft to convince other people about who we are, then all that is going to happen is that we are going to be psychologically disturbed the way that it has clearly disturbed Mahathir, Muhyiddin also, it seems, for months, years, decades, and perhaps even a lifetime, yeah guys. So yeah, think about it, and as always, have a good day. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care, guys.